Good morning. This week's devotion is Everyone Who Believes. This coming Sunday is Baptism of the Lord Sunday, where we remember Jesus being baptized by John in the Jordan River. The other New Testament lesson is from the book of Acts. In it, Peter does talk about Jesus' baptism, but it has more significance for us. Peter talks about bringing the good news and baptism to all people. That concept sounds normal for us now, but it was very radical for the first Jewish believers. They were God's chosen people. Gentiles were to be avoided. But thank God that Peter and Paul and the early church did what Jesus said and took the good news to the ends of the earth. Considering the Gentiles are everyone who wasn't Jewish, the vast majority of believers today descend from Gentiles. Listen to a portion of Peter's sermon from Acts chapter 10, verses 34 through 36 and 42 through 43. Then Peter began to speak to them. I truly understand that God shows no partiality, but in every people, anyone who fears him and practices righteousness is acceptable to him. You know the message he sent to the people of Israel, preaching peace by Jesus Christ. He is Lord of all. He commanded us to preach to the people and to testify that he is the one ordained by God as judge of the living and the dead. All the prophets testify about him that everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins through his name. I was able to be baptized because Jesus sent the disciples out to the ends of the earth, baptizing in his name. We are called to spread the good news to the ends of the earth. But today you may say, but we have. There are people in every nation who've heard. But today, I think the ends of the earth may be closer to home. Peter reminds us that God shows no partiality, but our society, and even our church, often does. We are called to spread the good news to those who have been overlooked, to those who've been looked down upon, those who've been turned away or even turned off by the church. Today, the mission field may be right outside our door. The single parent who feels judged, the person struggling to learn English as a second language, the person told that God couldn't love them because of who they are or who they love. Today, the problem isn't that people haven't heard. The problem is that people have seen how some Christians act or have been hurt or turned away by the church and don't want anything to do with the hateful and judgmental people that they see. You know, that's why I started Geeks of Faith in the first place. To tell people that the hate and the judgment and the prejudice that they don't like in the first place, Jesus didn't like either. Jesus preached against hate and prejudice and injustice and even warned us not to judge. If you really want to follow Jesus, then you should be loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loving our neighbor as ourselves. We should be feeding the hungry and clothing the naked and comforting the sick and the prisoner and caring for the poor, not judging people. That is what Jesus sent the disciples out to do. That is who we are called to be as disciples, reaching out with no partiality and proclaiming that everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins through his name. If every believer focused on spreading the good news of God's grace and forgiveness of Christ, then people would be flocking to us, desperate for the love of Christ that we have found. Something to think about. Have a blessed week.